Hey Ian, how you doing, man?
Hi, Mike. All good? Excellent. You hear me all right?
Yeah. How you been, man?
Busy. As always during the holidays. That's what holidays are for. It's to catch up on all the stuff you don't have time to do around the day job, isn't it?
Right? Yeah. Yeah, the being that I adjunct and I teach pretty much all year, this break right here is the longest that I get because I do summer classes. So I'm off for 5 weeks. I've been I have a project. Well, first of all, I'm working on a new book, and I just hit around 10,000 words, so that's really cool. But it's become a tradition that I started last year that I watch one or two horror movies a day. I get caught up on all my horror movies on my winter break. So here, man. So far this break I've seen now. I don't just watch like stuff from 2025. I do some of that because, like, on my Facebook, you know how you get the reels, the TikTok shit.
Yeah.
On there, it's picked up on my algorithm that I want people to review movies. So I see what they're talking about, and then I make a list, and then, I find something on Prime or Netflix or whatever. And so far, this break, I've seen The Human Centipede, The Poughkeepsie Tapes, Match, Host, Session 9, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, The Conjuring, Man Finds Tape, The House That Jack Built, Lake Mungo, Frankenstein 2025, The Ugly Stepsister, Companion, Yellow Brick Road, Strange Harvest, which was the best out of all of these. Bring Her Back, Sinners, which was one of the worst of these. I don't care what they're saying about it. Final Destination, Bloodlines, Black Phone 2, and Weapons. So, yo, your dissertation is wicked, man. Absolutely wicked. I think I emailed this back about 10 or 11 years ago now, maybe 12 or 13. I was working at Widener University teaching three English classes a semester. And I got hired by the psychology department. They have 16 chairs, and one of the chairs hired me to do uh, uh, tutoring with his students that are working on their dissertations. And the first thing I did, like I looked at a couple of them, and my first question was, I see a repeated grammatical error, and it's called a rambling sentence, and it has multiple conjunctions, like and, but, because, which, or so. And I imagine that the reason why they're making this error, they're doing it purposely because they're doing a dissertation that's 250 pages long, minimum. They have a minimum of 100 sources, and they're trying to cram all the information in as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you want me to do when I tutor these students? Do you want me to do it like I do with, like in the writing center, where you kind of have them work it out? You don't want to edit their paper for them. And he said, no, I want you to edit the paper for them. I want you to do 30 pages an hour. And he said, I want you to forgive the rambling sentences. And I was like, fine. Like it was a dream. But really, I'm not a psychology major. I have a master's degree in literature and a master's in education. So I don't know whether Freud or Jung or whoever they're talking about. I don't really understand those concepts on the same level that they do. But one of the things that it taught me that really helped me out in my writing, both expository and fiction, is that a sentence is a sentence, man. It's like easy math. And you can look at a sentence and tell what somebody's doing. And the thing I liked about your dissertation, I didn't understand that much of it. As an educator, I understood about 30%. Maybe my number is off. I'm not a math guy, but I understood a good amount of it because what you're trying to do is differentiate your instruction. And you're trying to figure out ways in modern times how to do that because it's becoming more and more difficult. because
Yeah.
right, because education is getting a lot more personalized. I mean, in 50 years, everybody's going to be homeschooled. There will be no such thing as English anymore.
Mhm.
Um, how well you interpret a Shakespeare play has nothing to do with the way society is going. This is language of the literal.
Mhm.
And English is going to be how well can I teach students to prompt AI, whatever that looks like in 50 years. I won't be around in 50 years, Ian. So am I allowed to cuss?
Fuck yeah.
No. I mean, I'm not going to be around in 50 years, so why would I give a fuck? You know what I mean? I mean, I'm 64 years old. I'm retired from public schools. I'm doing a lot of adjuncting work. I teach 7 classes a semester and I tutor for 10 hours every Friday. But that's by choice.
Mhm.
But I'm loving it, man. I'm
Yeah.
loving it. This past semester was the first semester I taught one of my own books. Uh,
And
yeah,
I'm going to come to that because that's the reason we're actually chatting, isn't it? Is
sure. Yeah,
we
man.
got a message through from yourself about that new book. It says Blood Red Meta,
Yes.
which is available now. I did check, and it's also available in the UK on paperback as well as the electronic versions. If you do want to pick it up via Amazon and any reputable bookstore, um, it's 15 quid on Amazon. I'm sure you can pick it up elsewhere as well. That is, I'm having a quick blast through Goodreads. Whatever, is that your fifth novel at a rough guess? Around about that point.
Yeah, it's fifth or sixth novel. I've done 2 collections. One collection called The Voices in Our Heads was picked up by an author mill, and I didn't realize it until it was already done, and they sold 30 copies and then went out of business. So what I did was I took those short stories and put them together in my omnibus collection that I put out through Cemetery Dance in 2021. That was my pandemic project, and I took uh, all of the short stories that I had published in one place or another, and I rewrote every one of them, like literally from front to back, rewrote every one of them, and put out a collection of my 17 best short stories and novellas. And that's called The Voices in Our Heads, and that was Cemetery Dance. That's
Cool.
the publisher that did that one.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've done, maybe a book a year. Yeah, yeah, I think it's 6 novels now and 2 collections.
Smashing. And when you were talking to me, you mentioned that you discovery write, which obviously you're an English person, you teach it. What's the difference between discovery writing and I don't know, normal writing?
Yeah, no problem. There are really 2 macrostructures that you can follow. There are probably a lot of little subdivisions of this, but generally,
Yep.
you can either discovery write, which means that I don't start with nothing. I have to have some kind of image in my head, or maybe a character, or maybe a plot point.
Mhm.
But I don't know what the middle is. I don't know what the end is. I only know what the scene I'm going to write tomorrow is. And it's the only way I can do it. Now, the other way,
Mhm.
before I get into my version, the other way to do it is the way Richard Matheson said you do it, or Chet Williamson, who wrote Psycho 2, the book. And that's where you outline every single chapter. So what they suggest is that before you start, you have to know what the last line of your book is going to be. And I mean, I write pretty fast. I don't make myself write 6 pages a day like Stephen King says you're supposed to. In his, I think the book is called Reading to Write, or maybe that's the chapter. But he has a book out that says you have to write 6 pages a day. Um, but I write pretty fast, and I write about 6 pages a day when I'm going. I'm also a professor, so I'm always going back and editing as I go, which I don't suggest that a fledgling writer does. I would do the whole thing and get it done and then go back. But I can do this circular method because I can edit faster than I can write because I grade so many papers, and I'm really good at that part of it. But my thing is, it takes me anywhere from 8 months to a year and a half to write an 80,000 word novel. and I'm going to be a different person in a year. So how the fuck am I going to know where I'm going to be a year from now? I'm going to be writing differently.
Mhm.
I'm going to be, and also if I know what the last chapter is going to be when I start, I'm going to telegraph all the what the fuck moments, or I feel that way, like it's going to be stale. I don't want to steer the book into a direction that I haven't earned yet. That's the best way to look at it. I have to earn whatever the next moment is going to be by doing the moment now.
Yeah.
So discovery writing is scary as hell because I could get halfway through and I could realize that I'm only putting lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me twice where I've looked at it, I've admitted to myself, even though I'm 50,000 words in, that it's not going to work. It's not going to go anywhere. That usually doesn't happen to me. It's happened to me twice. Once when I was at about 50,000 and once when I was at 100. And what I did was I just abandoned ship. What I don't want to do is put my name on something that I'm going to put out there that I don't believe in 100%. Because other people are going to have a problem with it anyway. I don't need to put my name in that hat. Right? You know what I mean? So that's what the discovery writing process is. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't know. I mean, it's not an exact science. It's not that I don't know the very last chapter until I'm in the second to last chapter. Usually, I know generally what the ending is going to be at around the halfway point.
And you can start dovetailing and coming in towards
Then,
the end.
then, then I can start dovetailing because I have a body of work that I've earned.
Yeah.
So I am not like a hocus pocus, black magic kind of writer.
Mhm.
I don't believe in that stuff. I'm not like peace, love, and kumbaya, man. That's not me. I'm a realist, and that's the way I teach. I tell my students, I'm not going to cut the corners. I'm going to tell you how to make your writing better. I'm a fierce editor, but I'm gonna show you the exception to that. You might have heard before the idea that once you create a good character, they start writing themselves.
Yeah.
They don't quite do that, but there is a little bit to that, where once you've earned a character and you've done all the groundwork and they're doing things that are making the novel move forward, you write yourself into moments that automatically make your mind go to the next moment. And I wouldn't know that unless I did all the work beforehand.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what discovery writing is.
Incidentally, it's bringing back some memories of my own discovery writing. Sounds very similar to a scheme which I don't know whether it still goes or not, but it's called NaNoWriMo. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
No, it was and again, it was something I encountered online about maybe a decade ago, maybe a bit longer. And the idea was it was 1 month a year. People would encourage each other to write, and the NaNoWriMo idea was basically what you're saying. You start writing from point A, and you just write, and you write a certain number of words per day that you're comfortable with writing, but you don't edit, you don't go back, you just progress, 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 progress. So you've got that body of work behind you. And I think it's geared at people who aren't university lecturers, who aren't skilled at editing. But the idea is don't spend ages going back and fixing that grammar and making that sentence just right. Get that story, get to that halfway point so you've got that peak where you can now go, I can see the end in sight. And I think that sounds very, very similar to what you're describing there as discovery writing. It sounds not dissimilar, at least.
No, no, it's very similar. And again, if I were teaching a creative writing class and I had students who had maybe written a couple of short stories, and they're ready to do their first novel, I would suggest to them to not do it the way I do with the circular fast editing.
Mm,
I would do what you just said, because if you keep going back and changing, it's not just grammatical things, because
mm,
you can hire somebody to do that. That's easy. Grammar is, you can look in the MLA manual and you can find stuff that's concrete. It's the stuff that's not concrete, the stylistic stuff and also the semantic stuff that you're going to keep going back and trying to make better.
Yep.
And you could get into a rut where you're rewriting the same first paragraph for a year.
Yep.
And that you have to have the confidence that you can bring it forward.
Yep.
Um, and I think when I first started writing, I wasn't a college professor, and I used the method you just talked about.
Mhm.
And then I went all the way back at the end and then rewrote the whole thing, which is usually the way you're going to have to do it as a fledgling writer.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the problem you'll start second guessing yourself and overcorrecting as well, and taking out what's arguably and potentially some of the best writing you've done because you start to overthink. It's like sometimes just the way you write as an individual, you can tell somebody's writing style. Major authors, you read their work and you can tell that was written by Pratchett, that was written by Adams, that was written by Shakespeare. You know that if they'd gone back and over edited,
Right?
you're risking taking the essence away, and you end up with a novel which could look like it was done by, to use modern parlance, AI. And it takes a soul out of it a little bit if you over edit. I think it's not as raw. It's not it's personal to the writer. I think. I think some editors kind of lose that as well. Speaking to some other authors, you can have an overzealous editor who you need to change that and fix this, and it's like you've literally taken out the bit that makes the book special. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. When you free write, which is what you're describing, and that's where you just say, I'm not going to stop today, or I'm not going to stop for 30 minutes, or whatever. You put some kind of limitation on it. Um, sure, there's going to be some stuff that's a little sloppy that comes out of it, but also the jewels come out.
mhm,
And you're going to hit stuff that if you pre-thought about it, you're not going to be able to get. And that's why it's really important to do free writing like that.
mhm.
I think that's very true. And the other side of that is very often when you have a tailored piece, and I've fallen into this, you think that there are things that are jewels later in your editing phase, and you leave them in because you're like, oh, I like that line so much.
Yep.
And when you're playing editor, you have to have a different mindset, and you have to be able to cut stuff. I remember I forget what her name. Oh, I remember her name. I had an agent back in the 90s who was considering doing some of my stuff or representing some of my fiction. And I had actually a first draft of what became my first novel called Alice Walks. It's a ghost story.
Mhm.
And she said, Mike, you overwrite. And she actually went on track changes and showed me where I was overwriting, and it was really helpful. I ended up not working with her in the long run, but it was helpful to me where I want to give the reader too much. So my problem was not having not enough. My problem was that I threw too much in, and I'm still fighting with that nowadays. Now, Stephen King talks about this phenomenon as well, and he has a great way of handling it. He says when you're the writer, you have to be the explorer. And the metaphor he uses is you are not really writing. You have a chisel and a hammer, and you're chipping away, finding the fossil of a huge dinosaur. And your job is to chip away and finally have that whole thing come out. And that creative process, you have to give yourself some freedom to chip away.
Mhm.
And his suggestion is really a good one. He says once you're done your rough draft or what you think is your final draft,
Yep.
move away from it for 6 months, then come back to it and come back and edit all the stuff you don't need, because that's when you're going to be able to look at it as a reader would.
Yep.
My problem is that if I work for a year and I have a novel done and I do a lot of editing as I go, I want to send it out, man. I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience to sit around for 6 months and just let it sit. Because within that 6 months, I'm probably going to start a new project.
Yep.
So,
And then it'd be just dropping that one and going back. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah. And in fact, with Blood Red Meta, um, that one took me the shortest amount of time that I've ever taken to write a novel. It took me 6 months. But I didn't start. I started Blood Red Meta not this past Black Friday, a year ago Black Friday.
Wow. Okay.
And I didn't start a new novel until about 2 weeks before Black Friday this year. Um, so it was almost a year until I did something new. But what's interesting about Blood Red Meta, I call it the nesting dolls technique, but I'm
Mhm.
sure that some reviewer is going to come up for a name for it. Maybe they'll call it shit. I don't know, but I did a structure with Blood Red Meta that I don't think has been done before. Every chapter rewrites the last. So I'll have a chapter and you think that this is the reality that you're going to settle into. And then the next chapter makes the chapter you just read a lie. And then it reanimates it to be the new foundation of whatever that is. Then the next chapter, that was a lie.
Mhm.
And actually, I'm part of a creative writing workshop that is more like a lifetime love affair than it is a writing workshop. It's run by a guy named Ken Bingham, who is he's really big into theater. But he's been doing a creative writing workshop. He started doing it, it's adult enrichment, there's no grade,
Mhm.
but he started doing it back in the early 90s. I took my first Ken Bingham class at Temple University Night School back in 1992. And it's not a class, it's a workshop where people just hand in stuff and everybody critiques it. And he's built up like thousands of people who have taken the class. And he also has social get togethers every 2 weeks, so it becomes sort of like your family. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I've been in and out of that writing workshop for years, and I've known him for years. And when I was writing Blood Red Meta 2 summers ago, I took chapters. I had written like six, and I handed in chapters, and people critiqued it as it was going. It was wild.
Mhm.
And they all had pretty much the same comment. They said, I like what Mike is doing. It interests me. It's funny. And I wanted it to be. It's the first time I wrote horror comedy on
Yeah.
purpose, at least. um, and they said the only problem I see with it, or I foresee, I don't know how long he can juggle these balls in the air until he's got to ground the piece and really let me know what the truth is. Because if I know what I'm reading is going to be a lie, I'm not as invested in the character. And I had agreed with them.
Mhm.
And it ended up that I just blasted through this thing and I never let the balls hit the ground. I I it was the nesting doll technique
Mhm.
all the way until the last page. And actually now I'm writing the new novel that I've started. I didn't plan on doing the same technique, but I like it so much that now I'm doing a novel that's not comedic.
Mhm.
And I'm using the technique to show how an urban legend is made. And it's called the Black Cherry Swamp Witches. And I'm using it to hide the monster and make it so you don't know whose story is really real. And this is how we build a legend,
Right.
starting like from the 1700s.
Mhm.
And I'm having fun. I mean, I'll wait until there's no small market publisher, and I know a lot of them.
Mhm.
I'll wait until there's no small market or mid-grade publisher that'll publish it. Blood Red Meta is doing pretty well. Um, the reviews are okay. I mean, I'm Ian. I'm never going to claim that I'm more than what I am. I don't self-publish. I don't do that whole thing. There's nothing wrong with self-publishing. I know a lot of authors who prefer to only put out an electronic copy. They pay the $500 to Amazon, and they have enough of a reading base where they can make pure profit off of it after that 500. Me personally, I don't believe in self-publishing. It's not for me.
Mhm.
Um, and if you don't mind, I'll tell you the story. I found out about the horror small market uh, because I met online. I found a guy named St. Joshi. And if you go into, like, if you have an X account, if you go into Grok, which is their version of ChatGPT,
Yep.
and put in who is considered the number one modern biographer of H.P. Lovecraft, St. Joshi's name will come up. I mean, you can test this after we're done. And I found his name years ago, like in 2007. And I was lucky. I was teaching high school at the time, and somebody had given me a Borders book, gift certificate.
Yep.
When there used to be a Borders books, and I found a book called 18th Century or 17th Century Ghosts, and it was put out by Dover, which is an imprint of one of the big five. And it was edited by St. Joshi. So I thought he must know people. I had no idea how to get into the business. And I found an email and I sent him some stories. And he said, Michael, he was nice enough to email back. And he said, Michael, you overwrite a little bit, but thank you. The stories were fun. And then I thought that was really cool. And then 2 days later, he emailed me back again and he said, Mike, I can't get one of your stories out of my head. Put together 80,000 words and I'll publish it through a small publisher that I don't have a financial investment in, but I edit for them, and they're called Hippocampus Press. And what I didn't realize is Hippocampus is legit. They're putting out a collection of mine called Just Disappear in 2026. Um, they're legitimate. They do their own promo. You will sell copies. You make royalties. It's the real thing, and it's very much like heavy metal. I mean, if you're in a band and you want to make money, you're probably not going to play heavy metal. It's easier to do pop or easier to do K-pop or something else. Heavy metal is not the big thing. It's not like Zeppelin like in the 70s when I grew up. Um, but the lucky thing about heavy metal and horror is that they have a very strong indie market.
Yep.
Like cockroaches, you can't kill it. And as I was writing and publishing with people that St. Joshi shepherded me to or introduced me to, I also started writing because I'm a professor, I can write an analysis. And I love heavy metal. I was in a glam band in the 80s that played the same clubs that Cinderella and Bon Jovi and Smash Palace and all those bands around Philadelphia were playing. I was in the same clubs as them. I didn't have a voice good enough to be signed by a major deal, but I love heavy metal music and I know the life. So I thought, why can't I take bands who are on the brink of being signed by big record contracts, companies, or that are signed by the indie labels and write reviews about them. And now that ended up becoming a thing on its own. And now I write the site bios and the press releases for Eclipse Records, which is a rock and heavy metal label out of Pompton Plains, New Jersey. And so I found a home with the indie people there and found a home with the indie publishers, with horror. And the names that I'm familiar with are Centipede Press, Cemetery Dance, Nightshade Skyhorse, which is not even small market, they're mid grade, and now Weird House. And they're the ones that did Blood Red Meta. The guy who runs Weird House is no newcomer. His name is Joe Morey. He and his son ran Dark Regions for years, and they were a huge, small market press. And they've been really good to me. They've done a really great job with Blood Red Meta. As I said, it's the first novel that I've had my students buy. And I work at University of Delaware, Immaculata University, and Delaware County Community College. And Immaculata wasn't, they thought it was a conflict of interest to bring my own book in.
Yeah.
But University of Delaware and Delaware County Community College said, yeah, bring it in as a supplemental text. And Joe was really cool with Weird House because he actually put out different versions, and the hardcovers haven't even shipped yet. The ones in the slipcases, they're technically still on pre-order. But he made a special paperback version for $16.95 that my students can buy.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So that's really cool. So you can get $120. Well, you can't anymore. It's sold out. But there was a $120 version, $100 version. Now there's a $60 version, 1995, which is the regular paperback, the
Yeah.
student version, which is 16.95, which anybody can order anyway. It's on the site. uh, and that's sort of the way it worked with the different versions. But I thought that was really cool.
Cool.
And he's been really good to work with.
I'll make sure, obviously, I'll get those details off you via email later on. We'll make sure we've got links to the site and so forth.
Of course, sure.
If you're on YouTube, below, if you're on our website, above, all the usual. Gonna have to look at wrapping up because I've got the cheap version of Zoom, which means I've got 8 minutes left.
Sure.
But one of the things I like to do with everybody interview is I spot the universities that you taught at. So I guess you're somewhere in like the Delaware, Pennsylvania sort of area. So you obviously know the area intimately, very, very well. You're obviously been living there your entire life. I've got no idea if you have or not. So I'm going to ask you 3 trivia questions about the Pennsylvania and Delaware area, and I'm just curious to see
Sure.
how well you do because it's a chance for me to look at stuff and learn things as well. So it's always quite interesting. So
Sure.
I shall refer back to my notes. This one, I like that. I'm a map nerd as well. So anybody sees me watching Map Men on YouTube, love the stuff. So the border of Delaware and Pennsylvania is actually unique in the United States. Most of the borders follow straight lines, rivers, obvious continental markers. The one between Delaware and Pennsylvania follows an arc for a large amount of it. Do you know what the name of that arc is and where it's centered? Where the center of the circle would be that it's an arc of?
No, I'm probably not going to know any of the answers to your questions, but I do know that because I live just outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
I'm a Philadelphia
Yep.
fan. I'm an Eagles fan. I bleed Eagles green, yo. Okay. I'm a Philadelphia guy through and through. But when I go to Delaware, I go down 476 to 95 south,
Mhm.
and there's a big fork in the road. And one way is the quicker way to Newark, and one way is the quicker way to Wilmington. And it says, "Welcome to Delaware." So to me, it doesn't look like an arc; it looks like a fork.
Yep.
I'm curious. Tell me the answer to this piece of trivia that I don't know.
Well, it's called the 12-mile circle, and
Really?
that circle, that arc, which actually does cross river at one point, I think, is centered on the Newcastle courthouse in Delaware. And that caught my eye because I'm actually from near Newcastle in the UK. But the one in Delaware is 2 words, New Space Castle. So I thought that's quite an interesting one. Um, this one you might get. This is a Philadelphia one.
Okay.
Kennett Square in Philadelphia hosts which food-related festival every September?
Oh wow. I've never been to Kennett Square.
And it's related to the fact that Chester County in Pennsylvania, it has more than 50% of the US's crop of this particular item.
I don't know. I'm tempted to say like barley and hops and that we're doing an Oktoberfest thing, but I guess not. Do you tell me? Tell me about Kennett Square, man.
It's the mushroom festival. They are the mushroom county, apparently. More than 50% of the mushrooms grown in the US are from that area.
This is phenomenal because I'm learning a lot and I love learning, but boy, do I feel dumb.
If it makes you feel any better, the only people that seem to do well at these are Swedish people. Don't know why. Maybe I'll just pick easier questions for the Swedes. But the last one, this one again, maybe you'll get it. Maybe that's the whole thing with trivia. Everyone says that's an easy question. It's easy if you know the answer. This one's about a convenience chain. So maybe something which you've seen on a regular basis. It began as an iron foundry in New Jersey. Then it became a dairy farm in Delaware, Delaware County in Pennsylvania. The name is derived from the Native American word for the Canada goose, which is why it has a goose in its logo.
Mhm.
You're nodding your head a little bit, maybe.
Well,
What's the name of the store?
I grew up in Delaware County, so I'm a Delco kid,
Mhm.
and you have to be talking about Wawa.
There we go. You got one. Yes.
Yes, I got one,
I was
man.
thinking that's a convenience store. It's something he's going to walk past, and it's you know the logo. But yeah, that's the reason for the Canada Goose in the logo is because the name of the store is based on the Native American name for the Canada Goose. And their first food market was opened in Folsom, Pennsylvania in 1964. So they've been going quite a long time.
Yeah, and in the 70s, we had one of the first Wawas on the first like really big expansion in Broomall, where
Mhm.
I grew up. Now, I'm going to ask you a rock question,
Oh God.
and it's my favorite trivia question to ask. Without Googling it, name the drummer who never was in a band of his own that was really famous, but what he was famous for, you know, in rock circles, was coming into a band that needed a real injection, and then he'd play with them and then leave. And that album would be great. He was on Diamond Dogs by David Bowie. He was on Journey Infinity, which was their big 1978 album with Wheel in the Sky. And he was also on the Jefferson Starship album with the big hit Jane with the little power chords they do. Name him. And
Uh,
it's not Tommy Aldridge. I know where you were going with that.
I'm going to know the name when you tell me it. I generally don't have a clue. There's
His
no
name
point even sitting there and trying to think about it.
his name's Ainsley Dunbar. And
Okay.
that's one piece of useless trivia that stuck with me. I'm not a trivia guy,
Mhm.
but that one I remember for some reason. And I thought it was a good time
I'm gonna have to go and look him up because weirdly the name sounds familiar, but maybe it's just one of those names
Mhm.
that sounds familiar. Maybe I have heard of him. I'm gonna have to go and have a dig afterwards. But on that, I've got 2 minutes and 21 seconds before Zoom tells me I have to pay it money. Um, Mike, it's been a genuine pleasure. I know I've got a copy of the book which is on its way to me. I'm looking forward to that. I'm ready to do some more reading this year. I've slowed down on my reading. We're having that dissertation and stuff to do. So one of my things this year is to use up some of that time with sitting down and doing some proper reading. So as soon as that one pops through the door, it's going to be right in the top of my to read pile. There will be a review. It will go up on the website. Um, in the meantime, I'll be ensuring to keep up on your reading from Eclipse and all their regular releases and so forth. Their press releases do routinely go up on our website as well. So do keep an eye out for any of the releases from Eclipse as well. I'll try not to edit the press releases too much, since I know how much hard work you put into them. Best of luck with that book. Best of luck with the new one, which you're 10,000 words through already. You were only 8,000 the last time you sent me an email, so you're obviously going through that at a rapid pace. So. Um, and do stay in touch. And when the next book's released after next Black Friday, do give me a shout, and we'll see what we can do about that. Maybe have a catch up.
Ian, it was so nice meeting you. Thanks for having me on.
No, no, you're very, very welcome. We'll have this video up as soon as we can. Cheers, Phil, and Happy New Year, although it'll be 5 years behind ours.
And Happy New Year to you as well.
Oh man. All right, you take care. Thank you very much indeed.
Take care.